information. People take it or leave it, and we move on. And then I'm going to just Teflon this off and shrug off or whatever, and then let God decide whatever that's best for humanity. You know.
Yeah, I understand that. And I'm with you on the God thing, and that, we may have our goals, whether high, low, or medium, and we end up being where we are. And a portion of that is God influence for our better. And we may not realize it or know it or understand it, but I am with you on that. And I trust in God as a source energy. And what I predict in the next 2 to 3 years is not at the highest level, but the minions just below the high level. We're going to see a lot of damage control. We're going to hear things like, I was the voice in the wilderness. I knew it was wrong. Or I have a new plan. I'm one of the good guys. Give it a chance. We're going to be seeing a lot of that because in my view, they failed. And now they're in like this fallback, like let's get as much back as we can because we actually didn't get to our goal. And I think we're going to see a lot of that coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised just because, with so much lies or so many different lies that has been kind of perpetrated on humanity, that there's always a kind of a cleanup team or PR campaign. And, they want to, because it's always going to come down to like maintaining a certain level of reputation, when they have used up their politicians or movie stars, they're going to replace them with new ones, and with the new ones, and we're going to look at them and say like, oh yes, these are the ones that we can actually trust, and then they build up their reputation a little bit, and then boom, they can just kind of give us a surprise left here and there. So there's always constant process of salvaging the manipulation that they have conducted. And some things, it's kind of like the way I think that the way they work is like kind of like a cost, profit, like a projection type of thing. It's like, oh yes, we're gonna run with this lie, or we know this is a negative thing, but we can still maintain it. And if it's too far gone, then they're gonna kind of chop that off, and then be like, okay, we don't want to do anything with that. We're gonna give that to some scapegoats, and then we're gonna move on with whatever agenda is. It's very well calculated in the way I think about it.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that. Is they're always going to shoot for 80%. They're going to consider 60% a victory and 40%, well, fall back and damage control. That's how I see that. And I just don't know how all this is going to go, but being aware of like the general agenda, like in the piece you just played, there was some good in there and, information, stuff like that. But you just couldn't get away from the word global coming up over and over. And I think that anybody who's on the global train either doesn't know, they honestly don't know, or they're part of the problem. That's where I am at this point, because you got to get off the globe to free yourself up to even get a chance to see the big picture. We may never see the big picture, but you got to give yourself a chance.
Yeah, I mean, there are layers to this, like I have mentioned before. So, again, I'm not here to necessarily promote anything in particular. I just tell people what I believe and why I believe what I believe. But uh, you know, as well as anybody else, it's just that if people are adamant about their belief system or the way they see the reality, I mean, nobody can take that away from them. That's just the bottom line, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And earlier today, I listened to some people discussing changes of the Bible and what that means and who's responsible. And I just don't see like a machine or a technology doing that. And it's hard to say if it's actually a positive or a negative, because who knows about the Bible really, or the other religious books, or anything that's over 100 years old for that matter. Like how do we know? I know that when I first got deep into the spiritual, like the Jesus born again type study, it was like 20, 27, 28 years ago. I could feel it. I could feel that Jesus energy like I do now. But I don't know if like Jesus is as presented, but I could feel it. I could feel it. I could call on it. Help me, Jesus, right? And the thing that hit me in that fresh state of like going that way back then was, why do we need 30 versions of the Bible? And I just like let it go. Like, if it's, if it's like so true and so solid and unchangeable and all, like that even back at that fresh, tender condition was something that was just glaring to me.
So, okay, let me address this first by the positive and negative aspects of the changes. So, if you are adamantly attached to whatever Bible that you were following, and the Bible is supernaturally changing, and you've noticed it, you're going to probably take a look at that as a negative thing because uh, one, I'm not saying you per se, I'm talking about anybody who has this line of thinking. I hope you're understanding me, right, David?
Oh yeah, I'm good. Not I know you're positive and you mean well on everything you say, and I think we agree on most everything.
Yeah, good. So if anybody is kind of very much attached to the Bible in that particular sense, that the Word of God is written on the Bible, and the Bible is supernatural, naturally changing, and you are noticing it. Someone is that individual is noticing it. Then most likely they're going to take it in a negative way. Now, the way I see it is that it is happening. It is part of this reality. So I just take it for what it is. Now, I think this is just my point of view. It could be a positive spin to this if there is, let's say, kind of something wrong with the Bible, or the Bible has been edited in, to a degree, or is a reflection. And this is kind of how I see the Bible now with all the changes, is that it's a very much the reflection of the current state of affairs, of the reality that we're experiencing. And in that sense, if we have the ability to see that for what that is, that's a tremendously a positive thing as far as I'm concerned. Is that understandable?
Yeah, as I say, I don't know one way or the other, but it kind of loops back to like who is in charge. Like I'm not anti-religion. I know what I like. I like direct communication with Source God. Uh, Religions to me feel like a cattle gate where, okay, you got God and you're able to communicate with God, but you got to go, okay, it's going to get narrower and narrower. This is the only way right here. See that little gate? Go ahead and squeeze right through there and you're good. That kind of thing. I don't feel right about that. And it loops back to like, somebody may say, well, God is in charge of everything and controls everything. And how many times have we heard God Almighty? But when we see what we see and what we experience, and I don't need to get into like the details of things that aren't that well for a lot of people, it makes one wonder if saying like God, like as a person or entity, has like a hands on and controlling everything. If that's the case, I just don't see it being a stern father with such a strict beat down lifetime test of their children. I see it more as there's something else in there. Call it a disease or an influence or the devil or dark energy that is dominating, for a better word, right now. And with this clown world slipping away to this like fluid mishmash of lies and not knowing what's true at all. I mean, we can't even look at a video without wondering if it's, complete green screen or just CGI to the max. I mean, we're to that point where most of what we see and hear could be a lie and probably is.
Okay, well, my only response is that I logically believe that God is in charge and is the ultimate source of everything, and is one and only, et cetera, et cetera. But like, why God does anything He does is beyond my pay grade, and why we are experiencing this reality as we are, because like the kind of like a strict parameters are not really set for us, because it will be nice if we did this and we did that, and these are the results that we're going to get. And we see all kinds of stuff. There are people who are getting away with murder, literally. You're talking about the global elites, and the kind of number of people they have poisoned, and people who have suffered because of them. And where's their punishment? So again, is there a long game that is like beyond my timeline that's happening here? I don't know. That's not for me to state here. All I know for myself, and I find comfort in the fact that God does exist, and that God is the one and only, and I believe that God is merciful and just. Now, what that really actually means in terms of expression is I have no idea. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that I could possibly comprehend in this lifetime.
Yeah, I see God as energy, and beyond that, I don't know. I I don't know, and I think that's a fair answer. But I do think that man with a capital N, or the evil people that are dominating, they know that there's no fight with energy. You can't punch energy. So what they're doing, like in a nutshell, is I think they're trying to make the population accept God, the Almighty, as actually like a person, like a guy with white hair, flowing beard, thick forearms, furrowed brow, gets angry, and because they got to fight, then that gives them a fight, but they can't fight energy. And interestingly, if you look at the Bible, I think it's Matthew 4:4. There's a verse: "Man does not live by bread alone, but by from every word from God." Okay, it doesn't say that anymore. It says, God, man does not live by bread alone, but by every word from the mouth of God. So now God has a mouth. See, he's a being, and I think that's part of the trick and the agenda going on.
Yeah, I mean, it could very well be, and people, I think, do find comfort, perhaps, because like it's like we see ourselves in like out there. There's a kind of a reflection of like ourselves. We might see faces, we might see expressions, we might see, we might feel sadness or happiness of another being, and so like to personalize God and to make God a personable entity, I think people do find comfort in, even if that might be off, or maybe that's not the right direction to go. But that's been done quite often throughout history. A lot of the religions, if you really look at like, ancient, quote unquote, I put that in quotes because we know it's not really ancient, but a lot of these um, religions where Zeus and Indra and Jupiter and all these guys, they are more like human beings than God. They're just like human beings with superpower. They're like Superman, basically, that have that's running around, but they have very human characteristics. They are prideful. They have greed. They have lust, and they do all kinds of manipulative things, just with like human beings with superpowers. So and people find comfort perhaps in that. It's like the American gods type of thing. Joe Cole, welcome to the panel.